Namaste and welcome to our continuing series, The Life Divine with Ranganath. Today we are on chapter Indeterminates, Cosmic Determinations and the Indeterminable, page number 319, last paragraph starting from On the Same Basis.
So, we have this session only once a week, so we always go back to the previous para so that we get the sense of continuity. So, I will read the summary of the para which I have made. You won't find it anywhere, so you just have to listen to what I am saying. Okay, then. The chapter is the cosmic indeterminates and the determinations and the indeterminable. When we speak of the indeterminable, determinates are something which gives you characteristics. If I take anything, I can describe it by weight, size, color, shape, form, etc. I can describe it. But when you can't describe something, then it becomes indeterminate. No, you don't take the meaning of the word determinate and indeterminate in the normal sense. Okay? Determination. So, not like that. He is determined to do something. Not in that sense. Determination means fixing the nature of something. Okay? Actually, if you see, there is a connection between that and the first meaning. But here he is talking of the features. Indeterminate means you can't fix the features. Indeterminable means you can't speak about it at all because it is totally featureless. So that's a chapter that he is talking here. He is describing that. And he has come to this that we see in the physical world that there is a law that is operating. And the law is very clear. Okay, take the trees and the animals. One tree will produce only itself. It will not produce anything else. Like a chiku tree will give birth to another chiku tree only. It will not produce something else. A cat will give birth to a cat only and not something else. So there is a law that operates. Yet at the same time, we see that there is a variation. The cat can have 5 kittens, but all the kittens will not be similar. There is a variation. One will be brown, one will be black, one will be a mixed color. So there is a variation. In other words, if you look at very carefully all these things, you go back to the concept of consciousness and chit. When something is conscious, there is a choice. And that choice determines the variation. I can do this or I can do that. So consciousness gives the element of variation and force, which is when you see force in the world, it seems to work mechanically without consciousness. The wind is blowing, the river is flowing, there is no consciousness. It only follows the laws of physics. Okay? So this is what he's been describing. So now he is trying to explain how the variation and the fixity of laws operates. And he has started examining on the basis of a consciousness which has come down and it has fixed itself. So he is saying that consciousness is creating everything. So that's a hypothesis that he is examining, and he finds that it explains many things. I am reading out to you the previous para, okay, and then we go on to the para that we have to read today. So he is saying here, Sat is the substance that lends itself to be shaped and hammered into form, color and size. Now Sat is the first element of Satchidananda. Sat is that which is substance, but it is very, 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 very subtle. It is so subtle that you can't describe it in any way. And then it is that substance which consciousness and force, they manipulate that substance into more and more dense forms. Finally, at the physical level, we have the densest of forms. Okay? So, and he is saying, Sat is the substance that lends itself to be shaped and hammered into form, color and size. Consciousness force creates forms and shapes. Note that the Sat is involved in Chit Shakti, and Chit Shakti is present in Sat. In other words, matter is consciousness and consciousness is substance. At the highest level, they are absolutely one. At the lowest level, you can't say that matter is consciousness, but consciousness is there hiding in it. Okay? Force also is there hiding in matter, and now science has discovered the means of utilizing this force hidden in matter. We have nuclear energy and we know how to tap it. Okay? There is energy also force in wind, and we know how to use that energy. There is energy in the river flowing and we know how to tap it. There is energy in the sunlight and we know how to tap it. What about the yogi? The yogi can tap into all these energies without instruments. The scientist is tapping energy of the sun through instruments. Okay? The scientist is using wind power, but he uses instruments. And the river is flowing, we have to build a dam and then let the water come out and we can create electricity. So we know how to do this, but we have to do it through material means. The yogi can tap into this energy without any instruments by sheer yogic development. Okay? So that is what is being said here. He has not said that, but that's the implication. I am saying this to make it clear to you. Then, force and consciousness are creating forms and shapes. Okay? Then, note that Sat is involved in Chit Shakti and Chit Shakti is involved in Sat. Matter is consciousness and consciousness is substance. On the same basis, he means that we have started thinking that consciousness and force is creating everything. Okay? On that basis. In fact, I can tell you what the basis is. Basis that consciousness and Chit always acting together and creating and influencing each other. Matter contains spirit and spirit contains matter. That's what he has said. That I was trying to tell you in the previous one. But in matter there is consciousness, and in consciousness there is matter, but it is subtle matter. Okay? They are all together. Sat, Chit, Ananda are all not 3-4 things. They are all one thing. Sat, Chit, Shakti, Ananda are all one at the highest level. But when they come down into the physical world, the one becomes the many. Therefore, consciousness is separate, force is separate, Ananda is separate, and substance is separate. So, that's the basis that Sremda is talking about. So, on that basis, there would be no difficulty in understanding why the physiological functionings of the body help to determine the mind's psychological actions. For the body is not mere unconscious matter. It is a structure of a secretly conscious energy that has taken form in it. I'll read the whole para, we come back to it. Itself occultly conscious, it is at the same time the vehicle of expression of an overt consciousness that has emerged and is self-aware in our physical energy substance. The body's functionings are a necessary machinery or instrumentation for the movements of this mental inhabitant. It is only by setting the corporeal instrument in motion that the conscious being, emerging, evolving in it, can transmit its mind formations, will formations, and turn them into a physical manifestation of itself in matter. The capacity, the processes of the instrument must to a certain extent reshape the mind formations in their transition from mental shape into physical expression. Its workings are necessary and must exercise their influence before that expression can become actual. The bodily instrument may even in some directions dominate its user. It may too, by force of habit, suggest or create involuntary reactions of the consciousness inhabiting it before the waking mind and will can control or interfere. All this is possible because the body has a subconscious consciousness of its own which counts in our total self-expression. Even if we look at this outer instrumentation only, we can conclude that body determines mind, But this is only a minor truth, and the major truth is that the mind determines body. In this view, a still deeper truth becomes conceivable. A spiritual entity ensouling the substance that veils is the original determinant of both mind and body. On the other side, in the opposite order of process, that by which the mind can transmit its ideas and commands to the body can train it to be an instrument for new action, can even so impress it with its habitual demands or orders that the physical instinct carries them out automatically, even when the mind is no longer consciously willing them. Those also more unusual but well attested by which, to an extraordinary and hardly limitable extent, the mind can learn to determine the reactions of the body, even to the overriding of its normal law or conditions of action. These and otherwise unaccountable aspects of the relation between these two elements of our being become easily understandable, for it is the secret consciousness in the living matter that receives from its greater companion. It is this in the body that in its own involved and occult fashion, perceives or feels the demand on it and obeys the emerged or evolving consciousness which presides over the body. Finally, the conception of a divine mind and will creating the cosmos becomes justifiable, while at the same time the perplexing elements in it, which our reasoning mentality refuses to ascribe to an arbitrary fiat of the Creator, find their explanation as inevitable phenomena of a consciousness emerging with difficulty out of its opposite, but with a mission to override these contrary phenomena and manifest by slow and difficult evolution its greater reality and true nature. A very, very complex para.
Yes.
We'll have to go great detail and look at it very carefully. It's a very complicated, almost 2 pages, no?
Yes.
And very complicated. We'll have to see. Okay. Because Sremdo's language is pretty complex. What we do is, we give the gist of the para in a summary. So, and then we start reading each one. So, I'm reading out the summary of what he said in these 2 pages, okay? Mind influences body at a higher level, just as body dominates mind at a lower level. This is clear? If I have an upset stomach, emotionally also I am disturbed. This is a very well-known fact.
Yes.
And so, body is dictating terms to the mind and the vital. This much is clear at our level. But it's the opposite truth at the highest level. Their mind is in control of the substance, because the substance is no more gross like the body. It has become subtle. Remember, there is gradation. Okay? Sat Chit Shakti Ananda is one, but it breaks up and becomes many at the lower level. So this is one truth. At the highest truth, it is subtle. But as it keeps coming down for manifestation, it becomes gross, grosser, grossest. Okay? Just like ice, water, water vapor. Water vapor is very, very
Subtle.
flexible and very, very not well defined. It's very flexible. But as it comes down, water is more solid and ice is absolutely solid. This image will make you understand the gradation of the consciousness, gradation of substance, gradation also of force and also of chit. At the highest level, full capacity. At the lower levels, they are all restricted and very limited. All of them, consciousness, force, everything. So, in the summary, we'll try and understand what is saying in the para, then we go back to the para. Mind influences body at the higher level. In the divine consciousness, mind is influencing body. If you want to put in other words, Purusha dominates Prakriti. Okay? Then, at a lower level, the body is dominating the mind and the vital. The body's insistence. When you are hungry, the body telling you, you must eat. Okay. When you are sleeping, when you feel sleepy, you are tired and you want to sleep, the body is insisting that you should sleep, and the mind agrees, and you go to sleep. So you are a slave to the body at the lower level. This is what is meant by you are a prisoner, and you have to get rid of that. That is moksha. So the soul comes out of the body-mind life and is free. It's not a slave anymore. Okay? So that's what he's saying here. Then we go to the next sentence. But finally, it is spirit that is master of matter and is slowly emerging from the dark, tenebrous substance of matter. Even here, the divine element is there in you, the soul. But the soul has purposely hidden itself in matter as an adventure, and it is trying to get out, and when it comes out, it is no more a slave. It can start dictating terms to the body-mind life. Okay? Purusha can become slowly master of body-mind life. It has become possible to conceive of a divinized body, a supramental body. So, if it is possible for the mind to control the body, the mind can keep going up, go up, it gets more and more power, and it is possible for the mind to influence the body, get rid of all its imperfections, and you can even have a divine body. That's what Srimad is saying. If you extend the process of going up, it then becomes possible to conceive of a divinized body, supramentalized matter. We have given life to matter. Okay? In the beginning, before life came into being, only the material existence was there, only matter. Then, because life is there and mind is there also, life enters into the mind, into the life, and it creates a combination of life and matter. All living creatures are a combination of matter and life. Okay? So, it is like you have put life into matter. Okay? Then, in the next stage, you have put mind principle into this life matter. So, if this is the process, why can't the divine also put itself into the matter? That's what Srimad is arguing. Okay, so I read that I have used my own interesting words. I have said we have life to matter. We have made matter living. Okay, by injecting life into it. What is the result? Insects, animals. Then we have mentalized matter, brain. Brain is nothing but matter with a injected capacity of mind power. That is brain. Note interestingly that your muscle is not brain power. Their mind has not been injected. It is only combination of life and matter. But brain is combination of matter, life and brain and mind. So if this is possible, why can't this supramental also enter into matter? That is the argument that Srimad is giving. Okay, so we have life matter, result is insects and animals. Then we have mentalized matter, brain, men. Okay, then why not supramentalized matter, the divine body? Theoretically, it should be possible. This is basically what he's saying in this huge para. So now we go back to the beginning of the para and try to sort out what he's saying. I'm reading each sentence and we'll see. It's pretty complicated. We'll try together to understand what he's saying. On the same basis, and that basis I told you is that consciousness and Shakti, always acting together, create and influence each other. Matter contains spirit and spirit contains matter. Okay? So, this is the basis. Now, there would be no difficulty in understanding why the physiological functioning of the body help to determine the mind's psychological actions. He's saying the physiological functions of the body. An upset stomach or tiredness is a physiological function. Or you are hungry, it's a physiological function. It affects the mind. That's what he's saying. Okay? Physiological functions of the body help to determine the mind's psychological actions. If you are hungry and you don't get food, you will get angry. Psychological reaction. Okay? If you are tired and you are not able to sleep, you will be upset. It's affecting the mind. Okay, so he's saying, but why does that happen? He's saying, for the body is not mere unconscious matter. This is, you must realize. It is not, there is a consciousness in matter, and the consciousness at a very low level. There is consciousness in life, but it's at a slightly higher level. There is consciousness in mind, and it's at an even higher level. There is consciousness outside the body, and that is even more. At the highest level, consciousness is full, it is divine. There is a gradation of consciousness, and this is what we have to understand. Normally, when we use the word consciousness, we think of awareness. But consciousness is not awareness. It's a substance which diminishes itself and enters into each one. So, mind, awareness is consciousness. I become conscious of something. Okay? I am aware of something, I can say I am mentally conscious. I see that thing, I am mentally conscious. The body level, there is a consciousness which is nothing to do with the mind. Okay? It's very simple if you think about it. The body has the capacity to repair itself. Okay? Suppose there is a cut. Okay? What does the body do? It goes about repairing it. How does it repair it? It immediately prevents, it starts coagulating. The blood coagulates and seals the cut. So, your mind is not doing that. It's a body which is repairing itself. So, there is a consciousness there. So, there is a body consciousness. There are many other examples. The example of coughing. When you are coughing, what is it? The body is trying to throw out something which it does not like. Okay? Or sneezing. The body is trying to remove something from the nose which it doesn't want. Okay? It's very simple. So this is the body consciousness. When you are hungry, it's a body which is telling you, I need food. When you are tired, the body is telling you, I need to rest. I'm tired. So this is a body consciousness. There are many other examples also of body consciousness you will see. Okay? If you see a horse or a cow, okay, and if a fly or anything big sits on its flank, it takes its tail and whips it. Okay? Or the skin of the cow itself or the horse goes like that. Nah? So it shakes off it's a body consciousness. The body is conscious at a very low level. It can't think, it can't plan, but it has got its own consciousness. That's what Swami is saying. Okay, so
like our reflex reactions also.
Reflex reactions.
Yeah. Like if you're coming across some little immediately, you don't have to think at that point.
Yes. Even fear, I think you could say it's a body reaction, because physiologically we know that what is fear? The adrenaline glands pump their products, the hormones, into the blood. And you become alert.
Right. It's an instinctual response to protect oneself.
But there is a biological reason for it. The adrenal glands over the kidneys are those, they are hormones, they produce hormones. So that is and as soon as there is a danger, it produces a hormone which is pumped into the blood. And there you become alert.
Yes.
So this is
I mean, I had an experience once, like when we had gone for river rafting in Rishikesh, and in one of the rapids, I fell inside the river. And the first thing they all tell us is not to let go of the paddle. So for me, the paddle slipped. So I knew that if this has happened, I have to make sure that I get the paddle. So I was not thinking at that point. It was just all happening automatically. I had the paddle, and then because I had it, I was able to just hold on to it and then go back to the raft. And it happened without any thought. It was like, instinctual, like, And
right.
It's interesting, even in such a tense situation, the mind is very conscious. So I was hearing my friend, she did not realize I had fallen down. So she was saying, go forward. Basically, forward means to go ahead. I'm like, don't go forward. I've fallen down. And finally they heard me and came back. So it was interesting.
So we continue with our so. For the body is not mere unconscious matter. It is a structure of a secretly conscious energy that has taken form in it. So, the body is nothing but mind entering life and life entering body. So everything is there inside, okay? Just as matter also, the divine is there in matter also, in all the different, and the evolution is slowly revealing all that is hidden in matter. Until now, the evolution has revealed only life and mind. But Srimad is saying the next step should be the supermind. That also will be manifested in time. It's not yet, it has not yet been done, but it will be done. It will be obvious. Okay, so it's a structure of a secretly conscious energy that has taken form in it. Whenever Srimad uses the word form, he means material form. Itself occultly conscious. The word occult means hidden, secret. Itself secretly conscious, it is at the same time the vehicle of expression of an overt consciousness that has emerged and is self-aware in our physical energy substance. Now note it is self-aware, okay? It is aware of itself, of our physical energy substance. The physical energy and the substance, okay? Physical energy substance. The body's functionings are a necessary machinery. Now note that, it's a machine. And it's a wonderful machine. The more you think about it, the more you see how it functions absolutely unbelievably. It's a machine that works unbelievably. Your heart is pumping non-stop. Never stops. It goes on pumping for 90 years, sometimes even 100 years. We have had 5-6 centenarians in the ashram.
106 some.
Which electric motor will go on functioning for 90 years without breaking down? So it's a fantastic machine. Think of the kidney, okay? It is purifying the blood, okay? And doing it so fantastically. It is removing all the impurities and putting the pure blood back into circulation. The lungs also are doing the same. They are taking out we think of it as very natural. But how can it be natural? There seems to be a consciousness in it. This is impure, I have to take out. This is pure, I have to put it back into circulation. There is a consciousness in the body. So that's what Swami is saying. Itself occultly conscious, it is at the same time the vehicle of expression of an overt consciousness that has emerged and is self-aware in our physical energy substance. The evolution has produced life first, then it has produced mind. So, it is there hidden inside matter and is slowly evolving. The body's functionings are a necessary machinery or instrumentation for the movements of this mental inhabitant. The mental inhabitant is, Srimad calls, the mental Purusha. There is, at the highest level, the divine can be impersonal, but he can also be personal. In other words, he can have a form. But normally, the first experience of a yogi, when he makes his mind calm, is to enter into a consciousness which is impersonal. Nobody is there. But you experience a vast peace and a vast silence. Okay? And a vast, sometimes even bliss is there. But nobody is there. But this vastness is impersonal. Totally impersonal. Just like the wind is impersonal. Okay? The matter is impersonal. There is no personality anywhere. But divine can also respond to you in a form. Okay, there is a very interesting thing that some people approach the divine through form. Then you go through bhakti. Okay, you have devotion and you worship a form. But the divine can also be formless. So, Srimad is saying now, the body's functionings are a necessary machinery or instrumentation for the movements of this mental inhabitant. I was trying to come to this. So when the divine is taking a personal aspect, it's called a Purusha. The Purusha at the highest level is personal as well as impersonal. And that person is at all the levels it is there. Okay? So there is a personal aspect to the supermind, there is a personal aspect to the overmind, there is a personal aspect to the intuitive mind everywhere. There is a personal aspect. Okay? At the mental level also there is a mental Purusha standing behind. Your mind, you don't think of it as a person, but there is a mental Purusha. There is a vital Purusha. There is even a physical Purusha. There is a personality even to the body. Okay? And now this is a very interesting thing. I am going a little out of the way to experience this. Everything that is impersonal in the physical world has got a representative which is personal. Take the case of, let's say, generosity. Okay? It's an impersonal thing. It's a characteristic. But there will be someone who will be representing generosity. And that's in the overmind consciousness. All the gods are personal representations of impersonal forces in the physical world. Okay? Varuna, he is the representative of the vastness of the sea. Okay? So, Indra, he is representative of the vastness of the mind plane of consciousness. So, like that,
and
there
Krishna,
are million gods.
like Krishna is love and beauty.
Yes. So, to everything in the physical world, take water, okay? It is impersonal. Water everywhere, but there is a person there. But there will be a person at the highest level, at the overmind level, representing water, representing life, representing matter, everything. So, mental Purusha is the personal aspect of the Purusha behind the mind. That's what. And in fact, in Sri Aurobindo yoga, he says, we start our yoga by the mental Purusha. We think of soul in, the Hatha Yogins are starting with the body, the Raj Yogins are starting with the vital and the mind, and Sri Aurobindo says, we start with the soul as in mind, we start from there, because psychological process.
Like, I mean, I remember when I initially came here, like, I would see everything in terms of symbolic representation, because the entire reality is symbolic of something much deeper. And I would relate to everything symbolically, even the Matri Mandir or even the inner chambers, I would try to open to the symbolic, aspect of everything. So that is what it was. Like, the first thing that opens is the mental Purusha.
So, okay. So, the mental Purusha is what he's saying here. So, the body's functioning are a necessary machinery or instrumentation or the movements of this mental inhabitant. The mental inhabitant is the mind that is inhabiting the body. Okay? It is only by setting the corporeal instruments in motion that the conscious being emerging. Now, conscious being, when he is putting C cap and B cap, he means a psychic being. Okay? Emerging, evolving in it, can transmit its mind formations, will formations, and turn them into a physical manifestation of itself in matter. So, when he talks of the conscious being, he is talking of the Jivatman. Okay? The Jivatman, emerging slowly, evolving in it, can transmit its mind formations and will formations and turn them into a physical manifestation of itself in matter. So, every man has a mental aspect and a vital aspect and a physical aspect, but it is created downwards. Okay? So, the capacity, the processes of the instrument must to a certain extent reshape the mind formations in their transition. I'll go step by step. The capacity, the processes of the instrument, the process, instrument he meaning body, mind, life, okay, must to a certain extent reshape the mind formations in their transition from mental shape into physical expression. Okay. When the mind formation, when there is a thought which is outside the body, it is something quite different. It is mental substance. But when it enters into the brain, it becomes mental substance subject to life and body. It has entered into a field where it is subjected to the influence of body and life. That's what he's saying. Okay? It gets limited, if you want, and conditioned by the body and life.
Like, even like Mother talks about, like, if you're writing, or if you're having some thoughts or something, it's better to write it down, because you then, it has the power of manifesting.
Yeah. So, the capacity, the processes of the instrument must to a certain extent reshape the mind formations in their transition from mental shape into physical expression. Its workings are necessary and must exercise their influence before their expression can become actual. The bodily instrument may even in some directions dominate its user. So that's what we were discussing. The bodily instrument may even in some directions dominate its user. Who is the user? The mental inhabitant. The mental inhabitant is being dominated by the body. It may too, by force of habit, suggest or create involuntary reactions of the consciousness inhabiting it before the waking mind and will can control or interfere. Now, this is interesting. There are sometimes purely physical things which you can't control by the mind. Okay, we know that there are. I give you only one example: mudra dosh. Nah? There are some people who twitch their very bodily movements are there, involuntary movements. Okay, so that's what Swami is saying. Before the mind can interfere and say, "Yeah, I don't want to do this," it happens.
Yes.
So there are some people who go on, for instance, twitching their or doing like this.
Right.
All sorts of mudra dosh they call them. Nah? So that's what he's saying.
Yeah, like, I mean, certain people also, like at an older age, they suck their thumb. They don't realize that they're doing it also. So, but
Childhood also some children.
that is normal. That is, at childhood, it is normal. But when the same habit is extended at an older age, it means it's coming, I don't know, is it a psychological thing or a physical thing?
What she is saying about the child, because the mind is not developed, so it's very easily it is influenceable. Yeah. Whereas afterwards, even adults also, sometimes it happens. I have seen one person who had a very peculiar habit, and it's involuntary. Before entering into a house, he would enter into the house and come out immediately again. Stand for two seconds, again go in, again come out. Again go in, again come out. So, this is an extraordinary thing. There are many who have twitchings. We used to have one gentleman here who used to constantly
Right.
things like that. So here the body is imposing itself before the mind can interfere. Okay, so the bodily instrument may even in some directions dominate its user. It may too, by force of habit, suggest or create involuntary reactions of the consciousness inhabiting it before the waking mind and will can control or interfere. Very clear, the language. Nah?
Like, there are some of these psychosomatic conditions. They don't exist in the body, but the person experiences it. So, would that also come under where the body is dominating the mind?
The word psychosomatic is used by doctors when they can't explain a phenomena.
Right.
No, I'm saying.
Very true.
I had a very interesting incident in the ashram here. There was a boy. You are from Pune, na? But one of my friends lives in Delhi. He used to be here. He has grown up here. His name was Prashant Khanna. Okay, and he had a tremendous stomachache, a real stomachache, not imagined. But the doctors could find nothing in it, nothing, no defect in the stomach anywhere. So they said it must be psychosomatic. So,
But psychosomatic and psychologically, it is a condition. It is actually a psychological condition, psychosomatic diseases. And they stem from some unresolved emotional issues and everything.
Yes,
and those
you are
emotional
right.
issues take a physical
Yes.
form.
yeah, I'll give you an interesting.
But there's no cause for it because the source is not physical. The source is emotional. But there has been like a cut between the emotion and the manifestation physically. So
I'll give you one instance of it becomes very clear how sometimes the doctors will not be able to tell you. Take the case of a man whose leg has been amputated. Okay, he had an injury in a car accident. He has had such a bad injury that the leg has to be amputated. The strange thing is, and it's not in one case, in many cases it has happened. The man will continue to feel the pain in the leg which is not there anymore. So, he's feeling the pain, but the leg is not there, but he'll feel the pain is there. Why is this? Because there is a subtle body. And he is feeling the pain in the subtle body. So, sometimes it can come from the subtle body and the doctor will never be able to catch it.
Right.
So then it becomes psychosomatic. It's not that the man is inventing the pain. It's really there.
But isn't the subtle body free from the ailments of the physical and
No,
everything?
there is a connection.
Oh, there is a connection.
I'll tell you, it's very interesting. There is a connection.
Because I always thought the subtle was free from...
Not free.
Oh.
It's connected.
It's connected.
I'll tell you, because sometimes what you have experienced in this life, okay, suppose you have had a bad injury, okay, or you have been hanged, okay, in this life. In the next life, that body may have a mark around the neck. May. It doesn't happen always, but it can happen. Okay? So, the physical is carried over onto the subtle, and the subtle again manifests into the physical. It can happen. And I'll give you another instance where you'll see that the subtle body and the physical body are connected. Okay? The subtle body is very often the shape of the physical body. I'll give you a very interesting because these things help you to understand certain things. During the Second World War, there was an American soldier who used to be constantly guided by somebody. Okay? And he used to say, move out. He used to see this man. He used
John
to see
Kelly.
him subtle.
John Kelly?
John Kelly.
Yeah.
So, he used to see and he used to say, move out of here, a bomb is going to fall. He used to move out, the bomb is to fall. So, he was being protected in this way. So, he came to call this person Great Sir. Okay? This gentleman came here to Pondicherry, we all met him. Okay? Narad also knows him very well. Okay? Then, I've also had many talks with him. So, he came to the ashram. How did he come? After the war, he went back to America. And one day, he saw a book in a bookshop, The Life Divine. But that was a picture of Sri Aurobindo in 1910, thin, with a beard. Now, when you see Sri Aurobindo's picture in 1950, it's quite different from when he was in 1910. You agree? But this man was seeing the 1950 image in the subtle world. So when he saw this picture of Sri Aurobindo, 1910 picture, he didn't recognize him at all. Another day when he went, there was a new edition of the book, and on the cover was Sri Aurobindo's picture 1950. Arey, this is my subtle great sir. He recognized him. And then he found out who was what. So here is Sri Aurobindo working in a subtle body, but the subtle body is a reflection, a true reflection of the physical body. So there is a connection.
There is a connection.
Okay? It's not that there is no connection. And sometimes this connection gets carried over into the next life when it's an accident. There is a very interesting case of a murder. Okay? Usually these reincarnation theories are very interesting because usually they occur when there is either an accident or a murder. Okay? If you examine the internet, you will see that all these very obvious reincarnations, okay, often happen with a murder or an accident. Okay? Many cases are there. In America, they have compiled 2,000 cases of reincarnation, and all of them are only of these two categories. Normally, when you die of old age and all that, you don't remember your past life. But in these cases, you do remember. I'll give you two instances. I'm going out of the subject, but it's a very interesting thing because you can understand that. So, this was in Lebanon. Either Lebanon or Syria or somewhere, I've forgotten. But a boy was murdered. Okay? He was hit in his head, on the skull, with a sharp instrument. Okay? So he died. But it was a sudden death. So the soul does not have a chance to travel from the body to the vital to the mind and to the psychic. It goes up to the subtle body and takes birth again. Because its life has been incomplete, so it wants to complete the life, it takes birth again. This boy remembered his past. Okay? And he says, I even know who murdered me. And he identified that man, actually. And that man went pale with fright. But you can't take legal action because there is no proof. Okay? So he went absolutely pale. Then he said, I don't even know where that instrument has been hidden. He went and got that instrument. Okay? This is one case. A very recent case which I saw only 2 months back in India. Okay? There was a gentleman who had he was well-to-do. He had a shop. He was running a shop, and his wife was there. And one day when he was coming in the car, somebody shot him. Okay? And he died. He was reborn almost immediately, but he remembered his past life. He used to tell his parents, you are not my parents. I am so and so, and I have a shop in so and such a place. It is there on the internet. Okay? I am such. Then, after a lot of insistence, the parents took him to that village, and he went and this is my shop. And then he went to the family, and he saw he is a 10-year-old boy, 10 or 9 years old boy, and he's telling his wife, who is 35 years old, you are my wife. Can't you recognize me? So, these things can happen. Okay.
And then, can you just comment something about the causal body? How does that interact with the subtle and...
The subtle body gets manifested in the physical body.
Right.
So it is there supporting the body actually.
And the causal?
Causal is not a body anymore.
Okay, it's not a body anymore.
When you say causal body, the matter is created by life. And life is created by mind. And mind is created by even subtler things. It is Satchidananda which creates all these downwards. Okay? So, you can divide this in gross world, subtle world and causal world. You can divide it that way. Or you can say also gross matter, subtle matter, causal matter.
And causal world goes up till Satchidananda.
Yes.
Okay, so it's...
That's right. Satchidananda is the cause of everything downwards. Okay? The bodily instrument may even in some directions dominate its user. We gave examples. It may too by force of habit suggest or create involuntary reactions of the consciousness inhabiting it before the waking mind and will can control or interfere. All this is possible because the body has a subconscious consciousness of its own which counts in our total self-expression. Even if we look at this outer instrumentation only, outer instrumentation, he means the body. Okay? Body, life and mind is the outer instrumentation. The soul is using the body, mind, life as instruments for its experience. We can conclude that body determines mind, but this is only a minor truth, and the major truth is that mind determines body. Okay? There is an interaction between the two.
So I guess now like psychology has tapped on to the aspect of the mind controlling the body.
Yes. Even athletics also, they know that your will in the mind can make you perform better. Okay? So they know that. In fact, a yogi, because he has gone outside the body-mind life, he can control body-mind life much better. I'll give you one example where Sri Aurobindo used to cure himself. Okay? One day, Champaklalji, who used to attend to him, he saw that his eye was red. Okay? And he said, your eye is red. He said, you come back in 2 hours and see. So you utilize his mental power or spiritual power, whatever it is. Okay? And that eye cleared in 2 hours' time. Okay? So, the higher you go, the more power you have over your body-mind life. You can change your habits also. But when your soul is stuck in the body-mind life, then body is dictating terms to the
Right.
soul. You can't very easily handle.
And I feel like that is the essence of psychology as well, that you can change yourself, like you have the capacity within you to change yourself.
Nowadays, this is coming.
It's still coming, yeah. And I feel the next line where he talks about like a spiritual entity ensouling the substance that veils it, I think transpersonal psychology is moving towards
That's
that.
right. That's right. I
So
was just
there is
going
the
to say
fourth
that.
dimension.
Transpersonal psychology is impersonal psychology,
Yeah.
not connected with individuals.
Right.
So, there is a consciousness which is
And not connected with mind or body, but
Yes.
it takes in the
That's
deeper
right.
dimension.
So these ideas are slowly evolving. Earlier it was the opposite, behaviorism.
Right.
The behaviorism,
Fully
the body dictating terms,
Yes.
conditions to the mind. The experiment was a very interesting one. It was, I think,
Pavlov, yes.
And
Pavlov and B.F. Skinner.
yeah. So what he used to do, just experiment, very interesting experiment. He used to give food to a dog, but every time he gave food to the dog, he used to hit a bell. Okay. Now that dog is associating the bell sound with food. So after maybe 20, 30 times doing this, he rang the bell but without the food. The dog comes rushing for the food. So in other words, you can condition.
It's called classical conditioning. Yeah.
These are the experiments. It's called behaviorism. So man also is largely like that. We don't realize it, but it's like that. We are conditioned by our body. So anyway, so this is what he's saying. But he says a major truth is that mind can control body. But this is only a minor truth, and a major truth is that mind determines body. In this view, a still deeper truth becomes conceivable. So by the way, I want to just give a little more. A major truth that mind determines body. Not only mind, but even soul can determine body. It is well known that in mother's case, our Srivandashram, the mother, her body was being molded for a particular work when it was even in the womb.
When it was even in the
womb.
Oh.
Mother's body was in the womb of her mother, and it was being prepared for a particular work in the...
Right.
Yeah. And it's also well known that you can choose where you want to be, your destiny, and before you enter into your body. Okay. So that also is there. The soul has a choice. But that's at quite a high level. So I continue with we have got 5 minutes. We'll continue and go as far as we can. So, in this view, a still deeper truth becomes conceivable. A spiritual entity ensouling the substance that veils it is the original determinant of both mind and body. In other words, the soul can determine the mind and the body. The mind can determine the body, but the soul has got even more power to determine mind and body. So,
and we can recover that, like
through yoga.
Through yoga, yes.
Okay. On the other side, in the opposite order of process, that by which the mind can transmit its ideas and commands to the body, can train it to be an instrument for new action, can even so impress it with its habitual demands or orders that the physical instinct carries them out automatically, even when the mind is no longer consciously willing them. Those also more unusual but well attested, by which to an extraordinary and hardly limitable extent the mind can learn to determine the reactions of the body, even to the overriding of its normal law or conditions of action. These and otherwise unaccountable aspects of the relation between these two elements of our being become easily understandable. So what he's saying is that the mind can teach the body by will. Okay? This is what I want to do. This is what I want to do. This is what the yogi does. Okay? He goes on insisting on you go on rejecting for instance, take anger. Okay? We'll take anger. One anger. Every time an anger comes to you, the mind says, I throw you out. I throw you out. It's a will. You use your will to say, I don't want anger. You try to control the anger. Every time you try to control the anger, slowly, the mind gets a power to not get angry. Okay. Actually, anger, there's a physical reaction. No? People start trembling and shaking. There are all sorts of physical reactions. So the mind can control this in the body itself. I am not going into, because we are short of time, but even in hypnotism, the same thing can happen. Okay? When you are, another person can tell you things which will actually take place in the body, but that's a... So, in brief, what he's saying is that if the mind can control body and the soul can control mind and body, why can't the divine also one day control this? It is possible theoretically, but it's an evolution that it will happen.
Yeah. Like today only I read a message someone forwarded that earlier, like when Sri Aurobindo was very frail, he was very much criticized for it. Like, you're so frail and thin and everything. And then when he discovered that there is the presence within him, and it is that which determines the health. So the power is within, which determines our health and well-being. So if we can tap onto that, it is that which determines. And he stopped having medicines for the longest time and didn't feel the need of any medication because...
Yeah, he never took medicines afterwards.
Afterwards.
He didn't have it. Okay, we stop here today.
Yeah.